Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Duke and I'm Duke of Italy, and welcome back to another video. And today we are doing something a little different from the normal music review, because today we're actually doing a tier list of the Death Grips albums. Now, you've probably never seen this specific tier list before. It's because I made it myself. I'll put the link in the description if you want to do it yourself. But I have all the Death Grips LPs and EPs in order. I didn't include the singles such as More Than a Fairy with Les Claypool, or the Live from Death Valley. Couple tracks there, but I have all the LPs and EPs here, and I've re-listened to them all again recently, and they aren't in this order down here, but they are all here, so I'm gonna just go through them in order. So if you don't know Death Grips, they're a Sacramento-based experimental hip-hop trio with featuring Zach Hill on the drums, who's iconic for his solo work, and in the math rock band Hella, where he's got these insane blast beats, and he pulls from all sorts of different styles, and his kit is actually pretty minimalistic. It's got like the bass drum, the kettle, the snare, and a couple cymbals, and that's like it. It's not, this is definitely isn't Tanny Carey, where it's got the whole kit with all the electronics too, although they will be distorted in post, but he's very unique with that. And then you got I think Outlander, aka Andy Morin, on the production, and he's great at just taking samples and just cutting them up just brutally and making these amazing sample-based tracks. And then you got MC Ride with these super harsh and yelled vocals, and even when he's more laid back, there's just this energy that goes along with it. And he shows up, and it's a really well-rounded group, and I like them a lot. And before I want to get into this, I have a bit of a theory about Death Grips. So they released Year of the Snitch, which is this album right here, in 2018. And it was their second to last project, their last project being Gmail and the Restraining Orders. And it ended with Disappointed, the track Disappointed. And the album was a bit of a departure from, I guess what you could describe as their sound, quote unquote, with stuff like The Powers That Be and Government Plates that you would almost kind of categorize as their sound, where it's glitchy, it's experimental, harsh vocals, But their Twitter has been silent. Their website's been silent. Instagram's been silent. There was a rumor on Mew that there's going to be an album called Run Out the Tape Deck or something like that was going to be released, but it never happened. And people were saying they were going to have stuff leaked. They said there was like a leaked track listing. It was all fake. So they really released their last album saying Disappointed, almost as like a meme to end it off. Then they released Gmail and the Restraining Orders, and people were like, oh, they're probably still posting stuff. But I think it was kind of a plan to just be in last decade with this info. They don't have any concerts planned, obviously because of something going on right now that I'm not going to say, because if this might get monetized someday. But it really does seem that Death Grips is done. So this might just be the full comprehensive tier list. If I have to update it in the future at some point, I might. But this really seems like all there's going to be. So first thing we have is their first EP, which is otherwise known as Death Grips. Now, if you listen to Exmilitary, you know how this EP sounds. It's pretty similar. It's actually Tachyon's on that, and there's another track on it that's also on Exmilitary. But you can't really stream it anywhere, and it's not on their website, but you can find it on YouTube. And it's definitely got some good tracks. Tachyon, it's for the first appearance of Tachyon with one of the best hooks of all time, 665 Forked Tongue. Just this brutal lyrics. It's like the glitchy bits there where it's MC Ride's looped over vocals. It's a really good record. I highly recommend it. It's a good entry point. Some people don't get it as much, but I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. That's going to go in the A tier. So it's a really good first release. Now we're getting on to Exmilitary. Exmilitary is one of my favorite Death Grips records. And it really if you start with Exmilitary, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's not on Spotify. It hasn't been on there for a while, but you can download it on their website. It's free. I've downloaded it myself, and it's excellent. Some people argue that it's not perfect. I think it's just about perfect. First of all, it really introduces Death Grips as this sort of group to take note of in the 2010 decade, where you got this cut up image here with like the kind of cheaper looking text, but this image is kind of like where on earth would you have found this? It's got one of my favorite intros to an album of all time, which Death Grips is 2 of, which I'll get into later. But just having that Charles Manson voice in Beware with that bass riff in the background before it starts the actual song is just legendary. You get tracks like Guillotine, or Guillotine, I guess you could say, Tachyon, Culture Shock. Just a solid stacked track list here. And the flaws are incredibly minute. And it's an amazing place to get started. The only issue I could say is that it's not on Spotify, so you can't really stream it, but you can download it for free, so it doesn't matter. And you're not going to get a virus. It's Death Grips' website. And it's a little different from their other albums. People call it their most normal album, but even saying that is so far off. It's so far off from traditional hip-hop. It's incredibly glitchy. I would describe this as like the most recognizable samples that you see like spliced up, like obviously the Charles Manson voice on Spready Go Across the Block. There's a very recognizable sample there, but I think it's a phenomenal record. Definitely a good entry point. I always recommend when you start listening to Death Grips, you want to listen to Guillotine, and then you want to listen to, there's a track off the next album that I'll get into. But yeah, Exmilitary, great. I'm putting that in S. So that's how Death Grips debuted in 2011 with that mixtape. And then you get to the Money Store. Now, the Money Store, a lot of people call their best album. I don't think it's their best, but it's still quite phenomenal. It's just as hooky as Exmilitary, where you got almost every song has just a super iconic hook. One of my favorite tracks on here is System Blower, where the whole like idea is that it's this massively rumbly bass run through these synths, and it's brutal. If you listen to it in the car, like your whole car is rumbling. It's legendary stuff. I love this album. A lot of people say Hacker is Death Grips' best song. Fantano definitely said that. I disagree entirely. It's not even the best track on the album. Sorry. I've Seen Footage is a legendary track. I wouldn't say it's the best one there either. I'm a big fan of System Blower. Blackjack is great. There's really not a single bad song on here. There's a couple more kind of lesser pronounced tracks, just because the style it's not as brutal as some of their later stuff, but it's really solid, and I think it's a really good entry point into the discography if you're trying to get into Death Grips. This and Exmilitary are probably 2 that I would recommend a lot. So that's an S. I would put it below Exmilitary, but it's still pretty great. And then you have No Love Deep Web. A lot of cool lore behind this album. If you guys are wondering what the heck that is, that's a censor bar, because it's actually a picture for the actual album cover is Zach Hill's penis with the words "No Love Deep Web" written on it, taken in a Hollywood hotel bathroom. There's a sort of culture surrounding this album that's just pretty amazing. It's a really good continuation upon the current Death Grips style that they had. You got songs like Bass Rattle Starts at the Sky that I like a lot. There's Low Boy with just a really iconic hook. You can't forget about No Love, though. No Love almost beats every track on the Money Store. It's one of the most minimalist, I would describe, Death Grips tracks, but it's so brutal. Like the lyrics, it's a very hype song, even for being a lot less stuff put into it. So I'm going to give that an A. I'm going to put that above Death Grips right here. There we go. Where I would describe the Death Grips album as a little less fleshed out version of Exmilitary. No Love Deep Web. It manages to sort of carve its own identity, and it's pretty great. Then we have Government Plates. Government Plates, it is a bit of a mixed bag for me, but I still find it very great. Like, you got the opening track, which has an insanely long title, but it's MC Ride's most insane vocals to date. He's just screaming at the top of his lungs. And then you got tracks like Birds, which are just awesome and just really trippy. Then you got the fourth through about the 6th track in a row that are just all, they kind of all merged together in this hypnotic haze that you got. And then you got the last track, Whatever I Want, which is the 6-minute like bombardment. It's really some amazing stuff. A lot of people say it's not as good as other material. This is actually Mew's favorite Death Grips album, if I remember correctly, which a lot of people posted a lot. and it's a little underrated in their discography, but it's nothing to scoff at. Put it at an A. I'd put it at lower than their first EP, because their first EP totally carved more of a unique identity. But this is where their sound, I guess, gets most pronounced. Then we reach The Powers That Be with their first half of that LP. Oops, sorry. The first half of that LP. I'm not going to say the word, but you could find it anywhere. If you just look it up, you'll see it said. But I can't say it because I'm white. But it's definitely a solid little LP here. I think it's not as good as their other stuff so far. I just think it's a little weaker. It's a little nauseating, and that is kind of what Death Grips was going for there with songs like Have a Side Come BB. But there are some stronger tracks here, like Black Quarterback. I like a lot. The opening track I find really great. It uses a lot of sampling from Björk, the Icelandic singer, if you guys don't know her. But it's good. It's not as good as the rest of it's not as good as the rest of their stuff, in my opinion. But it's a solid little pick. I'm gonna put that in B. It's definitely could be stronger at points. It's not as much of it as iconic. And with that album actually came the note that Death Grips saying they were gonna split up, and then they ended up coming back together for some reason. And then they said they were gonna release Jenny Death, which is this LP right here, which was the other half of The Powers That Be. But they ended up releasing Fashion Week, which is an instrumental. It's an entirely instrumental album, so no MC right here. I think it's pretty solid. Just kind of unremarkable. But I would put it above the other half of The Powers That Be, so we're going to put that in B. And I just find it not that remarkable. And fun fact about the artwork here is that she did the Money Store artwork. So it's kind of a unique little fact there. It's kind of funny how everything in Death Grips kind of ties back together. They're kind of a cultural icon in a way. They kind of dominated the internet for the decade, and there's still memes of them getting posted constantly. Then you got Jenny Death. Jenny Death, I think I used to enjoy it a lot more than I did recently, but it's certainly a solid pick. It's hype the whole way through. You got the tracks like I Break Mirrors I Break Mirrors with My Face in the United States. Just interesting tracks like that. But it's not all it's cracked up to be, I'd say. But I think it's better than its other counterpart for The Powers That Be. And obviously you got On GP, which is one of Death Grips' most legendary tracks. So you kind of have to give it a little bit of credence just for that. So I'm going to put it above Fashion Week. Right there. Yeah, I'd say it's at the top of B tier, but it doesn't quite break into A tier. Like On GP keeps it at B tier. Then you got Interview. It's their second EP, which that's the guy who's supposed to interview them. I think his name's Matthew Hoffman or something like that. But I think this is, in my opinion, Death Grips' weakest release. It's got no vocals from MC Ride, obviously, but it's just not that special. It's a little harder to access than Fashion Week, in my opinion. But I can compare them more in depth on a later video, so I'm gonna put that in C. But it's actually not that bad. I'd probably give it like a 6. It's not bad, but it's not the best. It's just kind of there. Then we got Bottomless Pit. Bottomless Pit, I think, is probably the most underrated album in Death Grips' discography, because everyone thinks of it as like the Money Store 2 or something like that. But in my opinion, it is so much more. Just because the album, it's kind of their comeback after The Powers That Be pretty much saying they're gonna be dead. But with the track on the end of Jenny Death, with they had Death Grips 2.0, which kind of said it was like an evolution upon their sound. And then after Interview, everything up here is ultra solid, just rock solid picks from cover to cover. Everything works super well. So Bottomless Pit is my favorite Death Grips album. It's got up there with Exmilitary, the best Death Grips intro, with giving back people good ideas with that vocal intro, and then this black metal style, just ferocious blast beat from Zach Hill, and this completely nonsensical lyrics from MC Ride. It's a fantastic track, which leads into Hothead with these forgive me, but almost dubstep-like breakdowns that are just insanely brutal, and the lyrics are just super insane. They almost make no sense, but the people that try to make sense of them find these really interesting bits to them. It's almost like a rare field ceiling type lyrics, where it's just, you don't get them unless the artist explains them, because otherwise there's no way to understand them. What else on there? Spikes, fantastic track. Used to be one of my favorite tracks by Death Grips, just at all. I think it's stacked from front to back, not a weak point. Actually is one of my favorite albums of all time. Bottomless Pit gets the top here, right there. So yeah, Bottomless Pit, I covered it a little right now, but I'm definitely gonna cover it in the future in its own video. So then we get Steroids. Steroids, aka the Crouching Tiger Hidden Gabber megamix, is a 23-minute bombardment of all these interesting sounds and samplings of the own group. It is with flaw, for sure. It's if you're looking for the more hook style Death Grips, such as the 3S rank albums I put up here and No Love, Deep Web, you're not really gonna get it. But what you are gonna get is a energetic, just high octane run the whole way through for all 23 minutes. It's never has a lacking moment, and it has a hypnotic effect where it kind of puts you in, where if you like The Seer by Swans, totally different comparison here, but if you like the hypnotizing effect that song reaches in the 10 minutes, Steroids reaches it in 3. Amazingly good album. I'm actually going to put that at the top of A tier, in front of No Love, Deep Web. I think it's just a fantastic record there. And then we get the final LP from Death Grips, Year of the Snitch, released in 2018. A lot of people put this album off for some reason. I actually used to dislike it, but I listened to it again recently, and it's becoming one of my favorites. It's probably the most similar to Exmilitary in a way, where you have more samplings, more guitar parts that are more recognizable than Jenny Death. If you see, Jenny Death is actually recognizable for a lot of guitar rolls and riffs. But Year of the Snitch, you've got the bassist from Tool at points. The samples are awesome. You got tracks like Dilemma, which are super great. You got tracks like The Fear, where instead of Jenny Death with On GP, it's almost like a spiteful idea of suicide. The Fear is, it's like you're losing your mind type of suicide idea there. It's a scary track. You got songs like Black Paint, which are brutal, and listening to that when you're tired, just on full blast, it's really an experience there. I think it's a very, very good album, and I'm gonna put it in low A tier, just below Government Plates here. It's just not as iconic, I guess, as Government Plates. It's still a strong album, but it is low A tier. And finally, we reached Gmail and the Restraining Orders. So Gmail and the Restraining Orders was their only 2019 release. It was an EP from early on in the year. That was back when I was kind of just getting into Death Grips. Got into Death Grips like at the end of 2018. So Year of the Snitch was already out. So Death Grips was already like done. And then they had a few more concerts in like Russia, and then their discography was done after that. But this EP, it's 28 minutes long rather than the 23-minute Steroids mix. And it's almost like continuing the idea that Year of the Snitch had, where it was kind of in your face, just didn't care about what anyone thinks. Like Year of the Snitch had the track Disappointed, which was literally about, I don't care what you're thinking about the rest of my music. I'm just kind of making it because I want to. And it was so like boundary pushing, just for the sake of being boundary pushing. And it just manages to hit the mark of being energetic and almost fun, but like at the same time brutal. So Gmail and the Restraining Orders, it's a lot more Zach Hill focused than Steroids. Unfortunately, it's not available for stream on Spotify. It might be on Amazon, but I use Spotify personally. It is on YouTube, where you can find some music videos that if you have epilepsy, do not watch, because they can be brutal. But it's a good mix. It's 28 minutes straight of Zach Hill just going insane. And I think it connects a little better than Steroids. But as a whole, it's definitely a little it does overstay its welcome just a little bit. There are a couple points where it kind of tuned out and then tuned back in. And I'm like, oh, it's still going, but it's still good. And it's got this flow of energy kind of effect on you where you keep tuning in and tuning out. But it's not bad by any means. It definitely highlights Zach Hill a lot. They actually, Death Grips would start their shows with Gmail and the restraining orders, I think around 2015. And it's kind of evidence to me that that Death Grips are over. It's because it's just a re-release of older material. It's from 2015. Of course, you could have released it and made it in 2019, and I still would have thought it was boundary pushing and kind of incredible. But as a release itself, it's not as interesting. It's really good for Zach Hill, because Zach Hill just goes ham on the drums as he always does. But it's 28 minutes straight. I don't know if it was one take that he did it in, and I'd find it hard to believe almost, because like most Death Grip shows seem to be around like 40 minutes long, and anything longer than that would be just super tough on the guy. But it's a solid little pick, and I wouldn't put it up with the other Death Grips albums that are like truly fantastic, but I'm gonna put it at the top of A tier, just above Jenny Death, because it's really great. Granted, I'm a little biased. That might even be somewhere in between A, if I had a better service to listen to it on, than YouTube, because at least with my laptop, YouTube's sound is a little quieter, and you can't really listen to Death Grips quietly. It's just not an option there. But everything other than their first EP and last EP are on their website. You can download most of them you can download for free. Do that with Exmilitary. Highly recommend doing that. But yeah, that's their discography. So I'll put a link to this tier list in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly did. I love talking about Death Grips. They're one of my favorite groups, and they always will be. But they're fun. I highly recommend you get into them. If you haven't gotten into Death Grips yet, start with the tracks Guillotine, and then listen to I've Seen Footage. Those are probably their most two accessible tracks. If you feel like I've Seen Footage, it's probably the least Death Grips track, and then Guillotine, it shows their brutality, but it's not replicated ever again in that exact style. And then you can just listen through the Money Store, then listen to Exmilitary, and if you like those, and probably go through Government Plates, then Powers That Be, Dole of Deep Web, and then reach the king over here, Bottomless Pit. But yeah, I'm going to discuss Bottomless Pit in a future video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a great time. Hope you guys liked the tier list. If you guys would like, totally take the tier list. I'd love to see what you guys can send me on Instagram and Twitter. I have the links in the description. Just totally DM me. Yeah, have a good day. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. So have a good one. Thanks. Bye.